Arcadian Vanguard presents The Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Sunday, July 9th, 2023. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with last night's episode of AEW Collision broadcast live on TNT from the Brandt Center in Regina, Saskatchewan. In the main event, CM Punk defeated Samoa Joe in an Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament match. This was the first match between the two since 2005 and the first time the Punk had ever defeated Joe. Punk extended his hand to Joe after the match, but Joe attacked Punk with the rear naked choke, then went for a chair until he was chased off by FTR.
Come on, man! Come on! Wait a second now. FTR, thankfully. God knows what Samoa Joe would have done. We saw what he did to Roderick Strong a week ago after he won. God knows what Joe would have done to Punk with that chair, considering he lost.
Earlier in the show, FTR lost an AEW World Tag Team title eliminator match to Bullet Club Gold, granting Juice Robinson and Jay White a shot at FTR's title. The title match between the two teams has been scheduled for next week's Collision and is set to be contested in 2 out of 3 falls. In another Owen Hart men's tournament match, Ricky Starks topped Powerhouse Hobbs. In an angle following the match, Hobbs turned against QT Marshall, whose interference had inadvertently contributed to Hobbs losing the match.
No, I'm sorry. Powerhouse, I'm sorry. Stuff your sorries in a sack, QT.
Starks is scheduled to face off with CM Punk next week in the finals of the tournament. In other results, Scorpio Sky defeated Action Andretti. The scheduled Owen Hart Women's Tournament match between Willow Nightingale and Ring of Honor World Women's Champion Athena was postponed to next week due to an injury suffered by Nightingale in her match with Julia last Wednesday in Japan. In WWE news, last Friday's SmackDown was a legitimate sellout at Madison Square Garden, with WrestleTix reporting a total attendance of 13,617, including additional seats made available during the final hours leading up to the show. WWE's announced number was 15,182. The crowd was the largest WWE had drawn to the Garden since 2015. WWE also announced the show as the company's highest-grossing SmackDown episode ever, as well as the highest-grossing WWE event ever held at the Garden, where the company has presented pro wrestling since 1960. It is also believed to be the final WWE event presented at MSG before the sale of the company to Endeavor goes through at the end of the year. In related ratings news, overnight numbers are in for last Friday's SmackDown, indicating that 2.375 million viewers tuned into Fox to watch the episode, according to Spoiler TV. The preliminary rating in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic was 0.67. Full ratings figures for SmackDown are expected later this week. Major League Wrestling presented Never Say Never on pay-per-view last night, live from the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. The main event saw the MLW World Championship reign of Alex Hammerstone come to an end after a year and 9 months, with Hammerstone falling in defeat to Alex Kane, who forced Hammerstone to submit to a chokehold. This is Kane's first reign as MLW World Champion. Hammerstone had held the title since defeating Jacob Fatu on October 2nd, 2021. Prior to the match, longtime fight promoter Don King appeared in a pre-taped video claiming to be a financial backer of Kane's Bamaye Fight Club faction and urging Kane to win the world title. In 2 other title changes that took place on the card, Akira and Ricky Shane Page of The Calling defeated the Samoan SWAT team in a weapons match to become the new MLW World Tag Team Champions, and MLW World Featherweight Champion Delmi Exo beat WXW World Women's Champion Ava Everett to unify the 2 titles. In the opener, Jacob Fatu retained his MLW National Openweight title with a win over Calvin Tankman. In other results, Tracy Williams defeated Timothy Thatcher via referee stoppage, and Mance Warner beat Sam Adonis in a country whipping match. In injury news, Steve Maclin has been pulled from the upcoming Impact Slammiversary pay-per-view due to an unspecified injury he sustained during Impact's Down Under tour in Australia. Maclin had been scheduled to team with Bully Ray against Scott D'Amore and PCO at Slammiversary, which is set to take place next Saturday at St. Clair College Sportsplex in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Bully Ray is expected to announce his new tag team partner for the match tomorrow on Busted Open Radio. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.